Now let's go and create one custom control. So I'm going to add a new project into existing solution, and this time it's going to be a custom control library for WPF. I'll pick up WPF custom control library .NET framework using C#. I'll click on next and let's call it as, maybe since it's going to be a custom control, so I'll again have here the CC, and I'll put a name as in, I'm just going to reverse the text. So CC reverse text is the name of the control. So now a bit change you will find out. When we created user control, there was .xaml file in the project. So there was user control 1.xaml file, and then we literally authored the similar code. So there was a control in XAML, there was a code behind, C# code was there, and ultimately we compiled everything in the form of DLL. Now in case of custom control, what you will see is custom control project has got only class file that you will see. Visual Studio is very good at it. That is, Visual Studio by default adds up a kind of step-by-step, ultimately you can call it as a tutorial as well, step-by-step guidance is there. How do you create a custom control? But right now, since we are going to create it here, I am just going to delete this summary tag that is already added. So I have just removed it now. So right now CC reverse text is my namespace name and custom control name is custom control 1. So what is my intention now? CC reverse text should be the custom control. Now the namespace name, let's keep it as it is. Custom control 1 name as it is, we'll keep it. Let's ignore it for a while. But then CC reverse text, it just has one class inheriting from control class. So had it been like, if you wish to create a button which has got some different shape also, what we tried some time back was a control template. In here, if I inherit from button, then by default my custom control 1 will get a shape of button, will get all the properties and attributes of button class itself. But since it is control right now, if you recall in last session we discussed, control does not come up with a look and feel. Control doesn't have any kind of a built-in UI. It's a lookless thing. But what if I really want a look and feel to be provided to the control class? So you will find out every control class that you create by inheriting from a control ultimately is going to go and look for some sort of styling from somewhere. Like this control, whenever constructor gets called, is going to go and look for some styling for custom control 1, as the name suggests here. Now where is that styling added? You will see by default every custom control ultimately looks for a folder called as theme in WPF, and in that there is a default style called as generic.xaml. So this is normally used for theming in WPF. So by default these theme names that we have are aligned to something called as Windows themes. For example, Windows, if you have seen themes, ultimately color combinations, so you will find out Windows by default as operating system has got certain themes. Like there's a theme called as pumpkin, there's a theme called as classic, there is a theme called as black and white, there's a theme called as Windows XP. And then by default, if at all certain theme is applied in Windows, and if that theme name .xaml is mentioned in this folder, even in Windows in WPF application, forget about custom control. In WPF application, even if at all we add this folder called as theme, it's a standard folder. And if I add a theme of the same name as that of Windows theme, so if it is classic or pumpkin theme for the Windows, you will find out if there is a name theme over here which is called as classic theme or classic.xaml, classic.xaml will be automatically applied. Now if at all there is some theme applied in Windows and if it is not mentioned in the themes folder, then by default WPF runtime will look for a theme called as generic.xaml. Now what exactly generic.xaml is? You will notice we have seen such kind of a .xaml files without a code behind some sessions back. So if I open generic.xaml, you will notice generic.xaml is a simple resource dictionary. We have used resource dictionary in case of static resources, in case of dynamic resources concept, if you recall. So what's exactly in that dictionary? So you will find out my control name is custom control 1, just like button control. And then if you recall, there is a style added for the control which is called as custom control 1. Just like we mentioned some time back, there is a style specifically for a target type called as button. And how did I change the shape of button? By simply specifying setter property, which is called as template. And how did I set up a value? By default, we set up here a template called as control template, which means just like for a button, we applied a template and we mentioned a control template. Just like that, for my custom control, which is ultimately a lookless control by default, you will see that control has got some template and custom control template applied. So ultimately, by default, my control will only show a border. So I'm not interested in showcasing only border in this case. I am interested in building a UI over here. So either you can go and maybe draw any kind of a shape that you need over here. But here, as I have given name called as reverse control, what I want to do is I want two text boxes to be given in case of my custom control. Ultimately, it looks like user control, but it's not user control. Had it been user control, we would have written the code behind directly. Because user control, when you add some controls, there is a .cs file against that UI directly available to you. And ultimately, we can straight away go and write a code. Here, when you apply some sort of control and as a control template to some sort of control type, you will always find out it's not easy to deal with those existing controls. Again, what I mean by saying this, let's understand. I want my control to look like what is mentioned in template and control template. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to add a stack panel here. In the stack panel, I will simply add two text boxes. So text box 1, name it as txt1, height, width, and then by default there's no content, let's say. Maybe I'll call it as txt normal in this case. And then there will be one more text box. We will name it as txt reverse. So whatever I will type in first text box, it should reverse itself in the second text box. Okay, how do I write a code then? Because resource dictionaries do not have a code behind file, if you recall. And that's exactly what I mean to say in last session, that is WPF controls by default have got two sections. One is the visual they present through template and one is the code they present over here. Now these two files are not related with each other directly. I can't just go and write down the code in the code behind with respect to normal and with respect to reverse. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to ultimately understand here using custom control 1 that when exactly this template is going to get applied. So after template is applied, we will be able to find out these text boxes because default custom control 1 has no look and feel. And as and when I specify, now the custom control 1 should have a look and feel just like what is mentioned in control template. This control template content will not be available at design time. This particular control or custom control template will not be available at a logical tree time. It will be available at visual tree time, which means runtime, these two controls will be applied and added into the visual tree hierarchy or a tree hierarchy. So ultimately, if I have to write down the code now, while I design this application, while I design this code, ultimately we have to do some sort of assumptions. We have to understand, like we have to find out the controls which are yet to be there in the visual tree. So we have to write down using some assumptions code with respect to visual tree. Okay, how do I handle this? Here we go. By default, whenever any custom control is created, ultimately every custom control, just like every control goes through measure and arrange like events, every control will go through something which is called as on apply template. So this is one of the important event which happens in the life of every control, on apply template. On apply template, you will find out by default every control will take the default template available for the visual thing, for plotting a visual with respect to that control. And right now, whenever on apply template gets fired, you will find out control template will be applied on top of it. So ultimately now I am interested in finding the control through visual tree. One more time. Here in a visual tree hierarchy, we always have an option here, something called as visual tree helper dot, and we have an option called as get child. And then it will simply ask you some sort of dependency object reference. Here the tree helper will ask you the index of the child that you are looking for. However, since we don't know what sort of hierarchy the controls are going to go and fall in, so ultimately what I'm going to do is I'm going to ultimately ask here, I'm looking for some controls which are going to be there in visual tree. So how do I do that? We have here a nice method which is called as get template child. And ultimately it's just going to ask you a parameter from a visual tree, that is, tell me the name of the control, and I'll get you the control itself. See to it that get template child returns me dependency object. Every control in case of WPF ultimately somewhere in the hierarchy comes from dependency object. So you will find out here what we will have is, I need to take now text box. I'm going to name it as txt normal. Here there is no confusion. Reason behind that, txt normal is there in the XAML, and right now txt normal as an object which I'm going to go and search for, you will find out this is object with respect to class. So ultimately I'll just mention here, take this content as text box or txt or text box simply. Let's take this as text box. Similar way, I'll also try to find out other control. Keep it in mind, names are important here. So txt reverse, it's like finding my name in the visual tree hierarchy. This is which is going to be fruitful at runtime. This function will be executed at runtime because these controls are going to be part of visual tree, not logical tree. And then I will have here txt reverse. So we have two controls now. And now what I need to do is I need to handle txt normal's text change event. So whenever somebody goes and types the data in the text change or text normal, I need to collect that data and present it in case of txt reverse. So here is what I am going to do. This txt normal, I am going to take it at class level. Initially I'll set it to null, and I'll also take this txt reverse so that I can refer it in the next method as well. So I'm going to have here these things defined and declared at the class level. So now that I have txt normal text change handled, whenever somebody tries to change the text in text normal, I will be able to change the text in text reverse. How do I change it? Let's take the txt in text normal first. Let's take txt normal dot text. Let's hold that value. I'll call it as normal text equal to so and so. Now it's time to reverse the text. So how do I mention this? We can specify here, that is, I am looking for normal text to be reversed, and for that purpose I'll have to ensure that I convert this into array. So you can see multiple number of options for making certain things reverse. I'll specify get this into character array. Character array or array in general has a method called as reverse, which gives me I enumerable of characters, which I'm going to go and use the I enumerable conversion into something which is called as to array again, which means it's a reversed value array. And this value array is what I'm interested in putting txt reverse dot text equal to. I'm looking for a new string construction which will hold the reverse data in here. You can try multiple other methods for reversing the strings. I have just used the one which works. So reverse dot text, and then I'm just assigning it a string which is normal text converted into array, then reverse, and then again converted into array, and passed it as a string to the txt reverse text. So we have written the code without referring the so-called, you can say, anything as a direct visual. This is something which we have assumed that it will be applied at runtime and visual tree will be created. Now when I compile this logic, what I'll get is DLL file now. And this DLL file now I will have to refer in 00 demo. So one more time I'm going to reload 00 demo project. We already have 10 different files added here, just like some time back. And now I'll be adding one more WPF window into it. Let me add here window WPF. Let me add window 11 into it. Let me maximize this size. And let me go and specify in app.xaml, that is, I am interested in specifying window 11 as a startup. In window 11, I need to put up that custom control now. So to put a custom control, the very first thing, I need to add a reference to that custom control. So let's pick up cc reverse text DLL into the project. By default, cc reverse text will not be available over here. So for that purpose, we will have to import a namespace, because default namespaces do not know about our control. What these namespaces know is about existing controls from WPF. So here is what we will do. We will try to add now XMLNS, and we will try to refer it as maybe custom control as in CC only, and we will try to specify CC reverse assembly and CC reverse as a namespace name. So now we are interested in getting CC colon custom control 1 object. We will provide a name here which is called as my CC or reverse custom control. We'll provide here height and width. Rather, we can just provide it as it is. So default, it should pick up. Now if at all I go to design in this case, you will notice there are two text boxes, as you can see, plotted on the screen. So by default, what I want to do now, WPF does this ahead of time. That is, it tries to show you that how exactly your control will look like. Ideally, this control should be plotted and be part of visual tree hierarchy. It's a courtesy of Visual Studio that what it does is it tries to put up the content upfrontly in front of you. So now what I need to do is I simply need to run this 00 demo project. Let us set up this as a startup project and let's run it now. So let's see whether it works. When we run this, you will see if I put up here some value, let's say WPF, you will find out the reverse is put up over here. If I just put up Mahesh as in value, it will actually go and put up reverse value over here. So these text boxes were never part of a UI as such, direct UI, because it is part of generic.xaml and a resource dictionary. So here, using control template, you can provide a look and feel to your lookless controls, and at the same time, you can provide new look and feel for existing controls. So it's up to you when and how you use the control template concept in WPF. I hope I have made the control template concept clear to you and its usage in case of custom controls.